Welcome back to Maintainer's Garage. I'm Bags. Today in this video we're going to be installing an entire new stereo system in my 2005 Corvette. Putting in a Kenwood head unit, Morel front component speakers, Dayton audio rear speakers, Skar audio 8-inch subwoofer, a Pioneer amplifier, running all new speaker wire, putting in a backup camera. This is going to be a long video. I'm going to do my best to trim it down, but I want to be able to communicate to you and show you, if you've never done this and you want to do this, how to do it and not be scared of it and just dive right into it. And it takes a long time. I knew this was going to be a big job, so I tried to set myself up to not have to rush it, because this is one of those things where you rush stuff and then you kick yourself in the butt later, and I didn't want to do that. God bless my wife, thank you Pumpkin. She gave up her spot in the garage so I could move my car over and put all this stuff in here. I'm only going to show one side. I'm only going to show one front speaker, one rear speaker. The speaker wiring is similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar. So, you know, you can get the gist of that just for simplicity's sake. And if you're looking for the removals of how to disassemble the car, I've got a video on that. I'll put a link right here. And I sound deaden the car. If you're looking for that, I'll put a link right up here. And if you're looking to reinstall the stuff, you can basically go to the reverse of that removal video. I am going to show you how to put the door panel on, just because the tweeter attaches to it and that kind of thing. And that's really the only installation I may have. I may end up showing a little bit of the center console trim. I don't exactly know, but that's that. So let's dig in. We're getting ready to start running speaker wiring. For the doors, there's the little accordion that goes from the door to the car. On the inside of the car, there's a plastic cover for that. I'll get my little camera, I'll show you that. We're going to pop that off so we can get ready to route the speaker wires through it. Alright, we're going to run some speaker wire. We're on the driver's side. Clutch, brake, gas pedal. Come down and look up. Right there is the cover for the door wiring. You pull that plastic cover off and you can route your speaker wire to the door right there. If you grab that from the top with your fingers and pry from the top, go pulling down, it'll pop right off. We got our plastic trim piece removed. How the cluck do you run the wire through it? Well, a good way is to drill through that plastic piece. Before you drill, know how big a hole you have to do. Take a piece of cardboard, put a hole in it. Perfect. Go super slow. This is super thin plastic. Don't put a hole in your car, in your finger, in any wiring or anything. Pull the plastic as far away from everything as you can. Hold it like this, so when you drill like that, you don't drill into you. Make sure you get the remnants from the other side of the hole cleaned up. That way you don't jack up your speaker wire. I like to run the speaker wire from the door to the amp. As you're routing it through the car, you're just dealing with this one piece, and the spool is feeding you. Getting through this accordion can be easy, can be very difficult. A lot of times just taking the speaker wire and fishing it around and it'll come right through, and then with that plastic panel removed, you can stick your fingers in there and grab it and pull it out. Just put your hand inside the square hole, just like that. Then you can put it through the hole you just drilled. It's a good clean hole, and we've got a little extra room, because when I get done and I'm down to, you know, getting it just perfect and cleaned up, I'm gonna pull a little excess from inside the door, wrap it with electric tape, and slide it back through. That way it's got some chafing protection. There's a large harness that comes right just behind this plastic trim piece. That's exactly where I'd route this. Why? You're not going to ever have a problem of it interfering with your brake pedal, gas pedal, or the electronics for that. And if you wire tie it, zip tie it, plastic tie it, whatever you want to call it, to that harness, A, it's secure, B, it won't rattle or move and make any noise. All right, we got our speaker wire ran to approximately where the amp's going to go, plus about a foot. mounting 6.5-inch component speakers. So I have a 6.5-inch speaker here and then a tweeter. I think I'm going to put the crossover here. Not exactly sure yet. Behind this piece of tape is a hole. That wire can come out, feed in that crossover, go right, the wire for the mid bass and the tweeter, go right back through it. That's why this looks like a good plan. I just need to make sure that works out. But since I'm here, I'm going to put in my Metro adapter for this subwoofer. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my insulation and just cutting it into strips and forming it around here, forming around the opening, because this has a lip on it because it goes in like that. So when it goes in, I'll have a good seal around this edge. Then this will also be dampened for vibrations. Then we have our 4 7mm fasteners. You just want to get it snug with a good seal. So you've got a good seal all the way around here. Good for anti-vibration and anti-rattling on that, and good for mid-bass. I'm putting in these 6.5-inch component speakers. My tweeter of that component won't mount in the factory location, so I had to make a custom mount for it. Made it out of paper, transferred that to black ABS plastic, mounted it up, and boom, just like that. One of the things you want to look out for is when you're mounting this tweeter in here, if you're doing that, make sure you understand the angle. I'm going to have this thing, if I had this 180 degrees opposite, it'd actually be pointing forward. It's slightly angled away from the door, pointed at the passengers. Just want a little tidbit of sound staging and all that. Our crossover is nice and small. It'll fit right here. We got the speaker wire that's going to come out this little hole, go right in the crossover. We'll be able to feed the tweeter. It's going to sit about right here. Then we'll be able to run the wire for the mid-range through the same hole. Be perfect. We're going to double-side sticky tape this. It's nice and strong double-side sticky tape, but it's sticky tape nonetheless. That's that. On the wiring out of the crossover, I've got these little terminal lugs. They're great. You can find them, again, Amazon, eBay, auction sites, wherever, local hardware store. You just want to strip enough of the insulation to where when you push it down, it meets the insulation, and then you've got a little bit of wiring showing right up here. And you do not want to crimp this thing. Just crimp it and it'll feel snug, it'll get snug, and then stop. And then when you feel on it, you should feel an indentation. And then just grab the insulation, hold the wire, grab the terminal lug, and do a pretty firm pull. If it doesn't pull out, you're good. If it pulls off, throw the one you just crimped away, get a new one, retry it. On these Metro adapters, these will fit either 6-inch or 6.5-inch speakers. You look on this is the front side. When you look on the back side, there's a little line on these tabs. That's so you can break these off and fit either a 6 or 6.5-inch speaker. Just grab them with a pair of pliers. They'll pull, snap right off. That's what they're designed to do. Same thing goes for the speaker terminal. I like using these little spade connectors. Makes it easy getting on and off. You'll just notice on these it's a little different than those other ones. The crimp is right here. It's not on this bottom plastic, it's on this secondary plastic. And you want to make sure you can see a little bit of wire coming straight through the insulation right there on the bottom of the terminal. After you get those crimped up, what I like to do is hook up the speaker wire, put the speaker in, and then I'll pull the slack out up here and just kind of tuck it away that way. That way it won't hit the glass when it goes up and down. And then also if I need to pull the speaker out in the future, I can just pull the slack and pull it right out. On the speaker itself, I use a little bit of 1/4 inch insulation. and I just go right around the rim of the speaker. And what this does is gives you a nice good gasket and seal. Overlap a little bit there, and you're done. So make sure you remember which wires, the positive, which wires the negative. I've got the wire with the white dot or the white line as my positive, and the negative is smaller than the spade terminal here, but it'll fit on one side of it and get a snug, good connection. And then just pull your excess through and coil it up right there. One thing I learned from somebody long ago at a stereo shop was foam is a good insulator and helps focus the sound into where it wants to go. This little channel right here is perfect, and you can buy speaker rings on, you know, wherever, or you can buy AC window unit foam for a lot less. Now we're going to install these rear speakers. I will say I went a little different. What I did was I decided to buy, instead of getting a full range speaker, I decided to buy just mid bass drivers. Why? Well, on my first Corvette, when I put that audio system in, I had a very difficult time tuning it. What I mean by tuning is I had front component speakers just like this. Then I had 5 1/4 full range speakers, mid driver and then a tweeter in the middle. They were overpowering the front speakers because in the Corvette your head is so close to them. You easily hear more sound from those speakers than you do the front speakers. The front speakers were much better than these, and I didn't have a such an awesome head unit that, you know, I could time delay the sound there, and I didn't want that. That's crazy complicated. It's not what I wanted to do. So basically I fooled with it until I got it right. I had to play with the settings on the head unit to turn the volume down on the rear speakers, and I even had to adjust the fader. Didn't like it. On my second car, similar problem, but I made sure this time that I knew how to do it, so it didn't take me as long. What I decided to do on this car, and on my third car, you know, whatever. Yeah, I know I've had a few. On this car, I went with just a mid-bass driver. And Dayton, these are Dayton Audio Neo Balanced 5 1/4 inch mid driver. And, you know, that's, not everybody will want to, you know, spend the money to practice with this. Those were $50 for the pair, which isn't cheap, but it's not exactly expensive either. It was worth it to me to give it a shot to see if I would like the results or not. And again, when you crimp these, don't crimp the snot out of them like I did in my freaking Lexus, where I had to troubleshoot it and figure that out. Give it, see? So I give it the pull test. F that away. And anyway, and yeah, that's exactly, I meant to do that to show you how to do this. Yeah, back to our regularly scheduled program and my crazy just rant. I'm freaking nuts. Anyway, all of that to say, I just wanted to try it. Pull test good this time. Good pull test number 2. With cars, you know, that's part of the fun, is trying stuff. Now, when you try stuff and you blow your motor, that's not freaking fun. I get it. When you spend $400 and it doesn't work, that's not fun. For me, it was worth the $50 gamble. I had the $50 I could waste to try these. And the other thing I like about them is they come with foam backing, so I don't have to put my little insulation on them. It's already done. Just route the speaker wire through here, and the good thing is you can get your hand back here, so if these little clips are moving around on you, you can just stuff your hand back there and hold one of them. Just make sure you get all four started before you tighten them down, and make sure you don't crush a stinking harness. There's actually route our speaker wire under this harness, just like that. And you want to make sure you've got enough excess in here to where when you pull this out, if you need to pull this back out when you take it off, you can actually pull it through. Ow. One more tip: you get a piece of duct tape. That extra wire, you can have your loop on the side and just duct tape that speaker wire down, so you can still have your extra kind of coiled, and that way as you're driving there won't be wire flopping around in there making noise, driving you crazy. Alright, so it's time to do the backup camera. This backup camera I'm going to get power, in the instruction manual it tells you to get power from the reverse wire, the actual reverse lights. So that way when you go into reverse, that sends a 12 volt signal to the reverse lights to turn on. That will also send, if you tap into that, that's where you get your 12 volt signal to turn on your backup camera. So that way when you go into reverse, camera automatically turns on. So now I'm going to go try in the back of the car and find the reverse wire. I thought I'd be able to see all these harnesses and see this harness. I can and I can't. So I took out the inner tail light. I'm going to take out the outer tail light, and hopefully that gets me where I want to be. But this will show you what you missed already. Removing one fastener, pull the little lip down, and this connector just slides right off. I found the harness. I found the plug that goes all the way down here. Two places it goes. That side light, this reverse light. That harness down here has a plastic rivet holding it in, and I can't release it from up here. I traced it back. Another harness, the side light right here, feeds into it. I can see the two wires in the back of this side light connector. It is a black wire and a brown wire. I found the harness. Here it is. It was clipped right here to this tail light. No other wires can be in this because they don't go anywhere else. I open it up. There's four wires. There's two black wires, a green wire, and a brown wire. Well, this gets one brown wire, one black wire. This gets the, I'm assuming, black wire and green wire. I know. Assume, ask you me, but I've cut the electrical tape back. I'm going to cut one of these wires and connect the battery and test for voltage. Let me go turn this thing on, slap her in reverse, and see what happens. It helps to ensure that your meter is on voltage and not resistance. Don't look at me that way. I do not need this from you today. Just kidding. Not kidding. Maybe. We have 11.37 volts. That is our backup wire. Just to verify, I'm going to take it out of reverse. Light should turn off, should be no voltage. Alright, we have no voltage. Alright, we got the right wire. Alright, here comes the part that people hate. You're going to need to get this connector through the trunk wall here, because it's got to go from the camera to that. Luckily, they give you a nice pretty little hole saw, and yeah, if you're just going to, just drill away, unless you look just in between these two taillights on this wall right here is a grommet. It's about this big around. The grommet right there. It goes just like that into that hole. That's where the hole is, and the grommet goes inside the tail light. You ain't got to drill squat. You just got to poke a hole in that rubber, just like we did with the grommet on the power cable. Take a metal device. You're going to want to start making small holes. Again, do not poke yourself. Do not poke through your wire harness. All right. Let's get a bigger screwdriver. All right, there we go. Now she's properly loosened up. I'll just throw trash on the floor. Maid will pick that up. Oh wait, I'm the maid. Son of a... All right, we got our camera properly covered up here. So when I lay it in here, it doesn't get all jacked up and I'm looking at a scratched up screen. I'm gonna put this through the hole. That way I can work from this end, standing up like a normal human being that I'm now out of the camera frame, you moron. Oh, we're in. All right. That's it. If you're going to route this wire somewhere, if you're going to use this little ring to tighten this down, which it's designed that way, run the ring before you put this harness through your hole, because you're going to have to pull it back to put this ring on. There's two Torx 15 screws that hold this license plate light in. If you remove that, you can bring this over here. It will fit between that hole, and then you can take it all the way over and up, and you can wedge it in there and take that ring and screw it down by hand. The license plate light will still go exactly where you got it from. Yeah, it took me a little while of messing with that to try to figure out the best place. I think that's the perfect solution for me. Don't know how that's going to look when I give it the full functional test. I'm going to test all of this before I put my car all the way back together. There's a ground on the trunk wall right here. It's got a big ground strap, big metal line going right to it. It's got a stud on it. No reason to cut another wire to make a ground when I've got one right there. Put a ring on it, tighten that down. Now we're on to our power wire. So we've got those two together. Oh, before I jack this up, before you crimp your second crimp and put the wire in, make sure you put your insulation sleeve over it, your environmental sleeve. Pull test good. Okay, we'll slide our environmental sleeve on. Just in case I didn't get it, that's the harness that plug, if you follow that plug and follow where it connects into, that's the harness that the green wire for the reverse lights are, and that's the grommet right there where you can poke all the wiring through. Yeah, right there, that's better. Right there is where our ground is. This giant monstrosity is not as scary as it looks. The instructions are really good. You just have to go slow, pay attention, read the instructions, go through it 1 or 2 times before you ever do anything. The biggest thing they tell you to do is, where is it? There's a little rotary switch, rotary dial right here. You want to set that for whatever your head unit manufacturer is. That's what you want to do first. Then when you connect this up, this plugs into the factory harness. This, you end up splicing this into the aftermarket stereo harness. Again, all these wires are labeled in the instruction manual. They're labeled in your stereo systems wiring, or stereo systems instructions. The one thing I do, I like to use these waterproof splices. You can find them on eBay for dirt cheap. I mean, you've got to use this so all the electronics in the car think everything is okay. One thing I'll say is I'll show you on my little camera, there's a little spot to the passenger side of the stereo, to the right side of the stereo, where this module will fit in pretty well. I'm going to sound deaden that, and you lose the chine. This is the new chine on the left side. I'm going to double sticky tape this on the other side, and I'll show you that. And this is the turn on wire for the amplifier. Just take your time. You can figure it out. No problem. If you've gotten this far, you can do this. And if you got just, again, patience. So I made a mistake, and I was looking at the pack wire harness adapter information, and I was looking at the Kenwood and the pack, comparing them when I built the little harness, and I missed where it said in the Kenwood owner's manual, connect it to the backup wiring harness of the vehicle. I thought I could just tap into the purple and white wire on the Kenwood, or I'm sorry, the pack harness. It didn't work. I had to connect the same wire that I powered the backup camera with. No worries, no problem. Just, run one little wire from back there up front. I missed it when I was looking at the wiring. I just got lost in all the wiring and making sure, doing everything. I didn't read all the instructions. You've got to read your head unit's instructions and the pack wiring harness instructions, and when in doubt, default to the manufacturer, the head unit manufacturer's instructions when it comes to specific things like cameras and things like that. I missed it, and it happens, and I just want to let you know about it. On the radio, these two little plates mount inside this first bracket adapter. Then you screw it to the side of the radio with the supplied hardware. Then this second trim ring snaps down in, and you don't end up using the stereo's trim ring. Then this just slides right in, bolts right up. I just wanted to show right here, that's where I'm going to put that large plastic interface. I put sound deadening in here so it'll help it. I'm going to do my best to try to secure it some way, maybe double-sided tape. But either way, I want to put sound deadening here so that way, if that thing some way somehow gets loose, it doesn't actually rattle inside of there. And I believe on the other side of this wall, I'm going to double-sided tape that the beeping chime. And that's what all this looks like. Alright, I've routed in the RCA cables just because to make it simpler. What I'm doing now is just setting this harness in. That plugs in the factory, that plugs in my aftermarket head unit. I'm just going to try to get some of this wiring taken care of before I ever try to put the head unit in. As the expression goes, the devil's in the details. With wiring, it's all details. When your system, doesn't work right or has problems, wiring problems will drive you crazy because they can be intermittent. Believe me, you don't want that. You don't want to be chasing your tail for an hour or a day trying to, find a bad connection or anything like that. I mean, I'm not using these RCA cables, so I'm going to try to zip tie them up. I'm going to try to get all these cables neat, tidy, secured. When I finally put all this stuff in, it won't be a big ball of crap back behind there. This is that chine that I'm going to put right there. And that's why I'm taking the time now, without the stereo, without anything, just looking around about what's the good way to, a good place to put all this stuff. What's a good way to lay it in here? What we're doing is we're going to remove the battery to run the amplifier wire. Just behind the battery is the main harness that comes into the car. I think we're going to be able to tap in from that grommet and just go right through it. On these terminals, you've got a 10mm fastener. You just loosen this nut up right here, and then you can pull this off. Same on the positive terminal, you have another one of those. And just in front of the battery, straight down, you have a 13mm nut, or bolt, that has to be removed, and then you can pull the battery out. That grommet right there is where we're going to run the power wire through. So that's the grommet that wire is going to come out of. I'm going to try to put it on top of that harness. There seems to be a lot of clearance. You could go from this side and go angled up and push it straight through. Just use a sharp object. Be careful of the harness. And that screwdriver went straight through, no problem. Alright, so what we got here is stuck a couple screwdrivers in the grommet, made the hole a little bigger, a little bigger, a little bigger, shoved a coat hanger through. Now I've got my power wire wrapped around with some electrical tape. I'm going to feed it through there. There's our power wire through our grommet, still attached to our coat hanger. It's almost like I knew what I was doing. You want to try to separate your power and ground to your amplifier from your RCA cables and speaker wire. That way you don't get any interference. I'm running the speaker wire at around and the RCA cables at the center console. Power wire is going to be right here. Ground wire is going to be this long, so that's not a big deal. But the power wire is going to come along here. The power and the speaker wire are going to be as close as they're ever going to be right here, and that's fine. This is going to go into the fuse block inside the engine bay. I don't like putting bare wires in there, so I've got a nice stud. I know I am, ladies, but I'm spoken for. But I got to trim the insulation off first. What you want to do is make sure you want the insulation to butt up to the bottom of this connector. So just line them up, draw a line, take your razor knife. You're just trying to saw through the insulation to the wiring. Just push down, just a little bit of force and just a little bit of motion will get that taken care of. And then you want to do the same thing going forward. Fold that up before I have to go to the ER again. And peel that right off with all your strands intact. Now, the goal is to get this nice and tight without putting too many twists in it. Ah, you SOB. Well, we got one straggler we'll trim off, but I'm okay with the one. Our hope is that we're going to beat on this and get it to have a nice good crimp, because I don't own a crimp tool. I'm going to try to do it this way. I've done it this way before with decent success. You want to make sure you come up a good ways. You don't want to be right back here. You want to be in about the middle of the contact. And you take a punch and you're going to smack it pretty good with this hammer here. Get a good crimp. That's not a bad one. I deformed the contact a little more than I wanted, but if you can see down in there, there is an excellent indention where that punch went, and I like it. And now we'll be able to just pull our insulation up, heat shrink that down, and we've got a solid power connection. Now I just have to do that again. Another, just in case I miss it, right here is where you ground the amplifier at. There's a nice ground wire already from the factory. Tag right along with it, you're there. Alright, we got our one lug staked, crimped, and heat shrunk. We're going to do the other one. It's crimped and heat shrunk. We're just going to attach it, screw it down. I will say I'm going to double-sided tape this fuse holder to the side of the engine bay here. That's tight. That's tight. Again, snug. You don't need to gorilla this. I'm going to it's double-sided tape, and I'm going to stick it right here. Why am I double-sided taping it? If I like where it is and it works out, I'm going to come back and I'm going to blast some screws in it. For now, since I'm not sure exactly if I'm going to like this or not, that's where I'm going to put it. There, if you pop this cover, there is a terminal right here that comes directly from the battery. That's where that lug's going to go. That's going to feed my amplifier. You just got to keep a good attitude. This is a big freaking job. I mean, it's a monstrous job to do by yourself, and I'm doing it over several days. If you're frustrated, go grab a 2x4, wrap it around a tree, a big giant tree that you ain't gonna hurt outside. Come back in and get back to work. Just do the best you can. Keep plugging along. It'll start taking shape. I think we're at the point where I probably need to test my amplifier just to make sure it works, and then end up testing the backup camera and all that. Let's do that. So where we are in the process right now is all of our wiring's done. Battery, ground, stereo wiring, backup camera, speaker wires, RCA cables, remote turn on. All the wiring is done. It's not routed exactly where we want it, but it's done. Now it's time to do a sanity check, a functional test, an ops check, a checkout, whatever you want to call it. Again, you're making sure the head unit works, you're making sure the amplifier works, and then you're making sure each individual speaker works and each individual speaker channel on the amp works. You're checking all your stuff to make sure everything works. Why? Because once you check and everything works, you can route all your wiring, you can make it look super neat, super clean. You can start putting your car all the way back together. And I will say we're missing the tweeters on the doors right here, but that's fine. If those don't work, that's an easy situation. You want that warm fuzzy before you get to the point where you're excited and you really start pressing and putting everything back together. You just want to make sure everything works. Again, I'm not even sure I've got the subwoofer or the RCA cables hooked up in the right area. It doesn't matter. I've got 6 RCAs hooked up here. I've got 6 RCAs hooked up here. That means every single one of these should work. Now it's time to connect the battery back up, and I've double checked and triple checked the connections up here and here. I'm comfortable that I'm not going to start a fire. All right, are you good? All right, now all right. Accessory mode's going to make noise, and let me turn the headlights off. Yeah, but the backup camera worked. We're at left rear, and on this it doesn't even matter. You can just put them in. I got noise, static. Hopefully you can hear that. So we know left rear works, and we know that first spot works. Doesn't even matter what spot this is, we know it works. All right, left front. I will say these things are slightly angled down. Left front, noise. Right rear. All right, right rear works. Left front, right front's what I need. Or did I already do right front? All right, all that's done. Now I gotta do the subwoofer. I'm gonna turn this down. That's working. So now we know everything works. Now we can turn everything off. All right, now that we know we have a fully functioning stereo system, backup camera and all that, disconnected the battery again, we're ready to start cleaning up this wiring. This is the time where, before you put everything back down, clean it all up, get it all nice and pretty, and then you can just start slamming everything right back in. I'm working on the passenger side first, because that's where our amp's got to mount. Well, there's some other things that have to happen. Wires need to get terminated. I've got to make some cuts in the carpet to route wiring and all that. So there's some detail work that's got to go on here. That's why I just wanted to start with the passenger side a little bit with the trim and whatnot. Probably should have put this carpet in first before I put the trim in. Again, learn from my mistakes. Carpet first, then trim panel. Now, we'll put this trim panel back down. There we go. Now we're in there. That's good. Alright, now it's almost time to deal with all this wiring. Alright, to mount our amp, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this. I'm going to try to use some tape to come in to say what's the high point of the plywood. So I've got a high point in one corner. I'm going to get a low point, and the diagonal corner down here, the carpet's going to really need to be exactly where you want it, because once you put these screws in it, you're going to hold it down more than it's been held down. So you want to make sure it's exactly right. Now we've got two corners of this marked. Now we can kind kind of put our amp around there, we are in a good spot. That'll be our top of our amplifier. And stop. All right, so our amp's mounted and not going anywhere. And then I got to cut some carpet for some wiring. All right, we got our 12 gauge speaker wire for our subwoofer. Running up under here and pull it down. I've only got to make a small cut for each one of these cables to come out the top. The bottom is a little bigger cut. Here's to hoping I know what I'm doing and I get it right on the first try. What I'm actually doing is I'm going to make 2 cuts. I'm going to have one for the power, ground, and turn on, and then I'm going to have separate for the speaker wire itself. And it may not be wide enough for both of these 4 gauge wires. We'll see. Oh, it is. On each wire, I've got it labeled. 5 speaker wires. Right on. Then it's just a matter of trimming these up, and that's it. Now it's on to the RCA cables. You don't want to get so close to the top of this that you actually have to pull the wire out. If you get too close to this, the wire will actually have to bend back and down. Because if you get too close to the amp, the wires are going to have to come back and down like that. So you want them to come down from the top. And you can just throw one of these on there and just kind of get a ballpark. Right on. And we'll feed this up through here. There we go. Just feed each RCA plug through one at a time. And you'll want to pull them through further. After they're hooked up and right, you can feed it back through this hole. You can go ahead and hook these up right now. Then you can come back here and pull that through. Now we'll get to this. The speaker wire's angled this way, so as you're trying to come up, you're having to come back and up. This is after we're installed, and I'm just throwing this in there. I didn't convey this very well in my video, so that's why you're seeing this now. The actual terminals on the amplifier aren't straight down. They're actually angled in like that. Why does that matter? Well, for me, because of that trunk wall, it was very hard to come up and come in like that with the speaker wire. The power ground, not so much because they're large, and I got those terminals on those posts, so that was easy. The turn on was easy. It was really the speaker wire. It was really a pain in the rear end, and that's really my only complaint about this amplifier. And but I just wanted to show you it fully mounted it in. That's the cut there, cuts there, but all in all, I'm very happy with it. I wanted that to be. I wanted to say that I didn't convey that very well during the install, so I wanted to convey that afterwards, just to make sure you understood it. If you're thinking about buying this, if you're thinking about mounting this, that'd be my only complaint. Just pay attention to how you were going to mount it. I probably wouldn't change anything because with all the stuff that I have in the car, I like the way this turned out. So, you just deal with the frustration. All right, our amp hooked up. We still got a lot to do. I'm going to put the head unit in. That way, it can just be mounted and be held in. I got to route the USB cables that are going to come. I'm going to have them come out in the console. So I figured I might as well go ahead and do that. In the Kenwood manual, when you attach these USB extenders, they recommend using electrical tape. I will be doing that. I'm just going to run it up right through here. Take our electrical tape, wrap it up, and plug everything else in. I'll worry about the routing of these USB extenders after I get the head unit in. And that'll just ensure a vibration-free success. All right, we'll put those over there. Now we have our RCA cables. subwoofer. And again, that little red will go to red. Push down on all those to ensure that they're fully seated. Now we'll go grab our wire harness and plug it in, make sure it's fully snapped. Then we got to do the backup camera. Do your best on pulling and prodding it around. I'm actually going to take the HVAC controls back out. That way I can see the wiring, move wiring around, try to separate it as best as possible. All right, there we go. And those are just two 7mm fasteners. Okay, we got that, some of it routed a little better. I got to move the video camera lines around a little bit. I'm just going to put these other two screws in, put those two 7mm fasteners back in it, snug them down, and start putting the trunk back together. All right, on our subwoofer box, we went with a Subthump C6 2/8" subwoofer box, sealed enclosure, about half a cubic foot per. We went with Skar Audio subwoofers, the IX8D2 2-ohm version. A lot of good reviews. I decided to try them. They're fairly inexpensive. They're about 40 bucks a piece off the internet. The problem is these terminals. They are exactly, this post is exactly the same width as most cutouts. They wouldn't fit in here. I had to notch out a little here and here to get this to fit. Now, I thought it might be a Subthump box problem, so I started measuring and looking at it, and it's the standard cutout for most 8-inch subwoofers. Skar is the oddball. If you take off too much from the sides, that mounting hole won't have anything to mount to. It's my only complaint. Our box is a tiny bit small for our sub, so we're going to add a little polyfill. You typically want to add about a pound per cubic foot. We have a little less than half a cubic foot per each, so we're going to stuff about half of this in each side. These are dual voice coil subs. We're going to have the voice coils wired in series, the speakers wired in parallel. Let's hit it with our multimeter now. We should see a 2-ohm load. Took it a second. Yep, I'm okay with that. 1.9 2.0, perfect, exactly what we wanted. All right, we got our Subthump box in. It fits great. I test fitted this when I first bought it before I disassembled the car. I put it in. You can still store the top here. So it looks great, matches the factory color perfectly. Very well built. Got a nice little partition area behind here. Hopefully it's going to sound as good as it looks. This box fits very snugly. It doesn't have any mounting hardware. It just kind of wedges itself in. You're going to need to beat this box down. That's how snug it is. And also, if you sound deaden similar to what I did, you've actually shrunk the space a little bit, which actually helps because that makes this fit even more snug. But it'll fit right in. And yeah, I really like this box. Now it's time to do the driver door. I added insulation here, or sound deadening, excuse me, here and here. And then I put a little rubber cement behind this, secure it in. And I wrapped this wire around there. I've got spade disconnects, so next time I or anybody need to remove this door, I can, or the door panel. I can separate it right there. That harness stays with the door. That harness stays with the door panel. This just slides in and that locks down. Just make sure you have all of your plastic inserts. And these 3 metal tabs, they've got little containers here. This is a giant pain in the tuchus. The window has to be all the way down. What you're going to do is you're going to try to slide. See if I can get a good picture of this. This slides into this channel right here. So you actually have to lift out on the bottom, push in on the top while supporting the door. Like, I've got 2 of the 3. I have 3 of the 3. Son of a man. If your door panel's not lined up, it can move around a little bit and be put into place. All right. And then just support the door and beat. All right, we'll get this thing going. Before we start, let me say this. Check the windows. We'll do the right side, pull it all the way up. Once it closes all the way, release, count to 3, then pull up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should be re-indexed. We'll put the left window all the way up. Once it's all the way up, release, count to 3. 1, 2, 3. We'll pull up 1, 2. We'll grab and pull up on the window switch, count to 5, which we've already done. Release, and now we'll push down. And we'll get some music going. Well, that clearly works. Hopefully this video helped you out. I had some fun making it. It was a struggle, but you know, I enjoy making these. Hopefully it helped you in some way. Thanks for watching Maintainer's Garage. Have a great day.